Season of Plunder has nearly come and gone, and it's certainly been a season of ups and downs for Bungie. And today I'm going to have a look back on all the beats of the season, including the narrative, Arc 3.0, the activities, the loot, the events, PvP, and also the grind. Without further delay, let's dive into Season of Plunder. So Season of Plunder got started in the best possible way. Bungie released Destiny 2 on the Epic Game Store, and we saw a very large player population at the start of the season, with a huge influx of new players. Bungie and Epic had a collaboration going on with Fortnite and Destiny in the game, with Bungie selling Fortnite armor skins and Fortnite putting Zavala, Elsie Bray and Ikora in their game, plus also recreating Javelin 4, and that was absolutely incredible. We had a big Lightfall reveal talking about Neptune and the Neon City of Neomuna, a new Darkness, Power and Strand hyping up our upcoming battle with the Witness and Callus coming up in Lightfall. Season of Plunder was revealed at the same time, and the mood amongst the community was really good. Everyone seemed to dig the pirate theme, and we were excited about Lightfall and how to get there. Well, first up, let's have a look at the story. So Season of Plunder was all about Eramis, Drifter, Spider, Mithrax and Ido. We found out more about Mithrax's past, plus Spider was smuggled back into the game with the help of Drifter. We learned this season about the dangerous relics of the darkness containing the remains of a powerful being called Nezrak, who was the disciple of the Lunar Pyramid. The Elixni had been searching for these powerful relics, and Eramis broke free from a stasis prison and was a constant thorn in the side of Mithrax. Ido and Mithrax have been studying the relics we collected throughout the season, and then at the end of the season, Nezrak was turned into a tea and fed to Osiris. Then Osiris woke up and somehow managed to remember that there was a secret hidden on Neptune. Well, mostly I enjoyed the story this season. Nezrak was a big surprise, even though it got data mined very early and leaked, although I did manage to avoid that, and I did find out through the cutscene when I was supposed to in-game. I did like learning more about Mithrax's dark past, and Spider is a great mob boss style character. It's definitely good to have him back in the game. Eramis was billed as the main antagonist for the season, but she didn't really show up too much. While there were some good story moments this season, the weekly drip feed of seasonal content appears to definitely be showing its age. Bungie are going for something new happening each week, which is admirable, but the weekly drip feed is getting a little bit stale. Unfortunately, at the end of the season, we had the culmination of the Nezrak story, where he was boiled down into a tea and fed to Osiris to help wake him up. To be honest, that was a little bit weak and also a little bit confusing, because we were led to believe that these relics of Nezrak had a powerful dark power. Then all of a sudden, we're boiling them down, making a tea out of it and feeding it to a man in a coma, and suddenly he wakes up with little explanation. Over the last few seasons, the narrative in Destiny 2 has been really good, but I think these last couple of weeks have been a little bit of a misstep. Well, next up we got Arc 3.0, so the final light subclass got its rework this season with Arc 3.0. I enjoyed playing with Arc this season. Titans came out very well with the Storm Grenades, and I really like the Hunter's new super. Warlocks got the short end of the stick again, although I don't really mind given I tend to play all three classes at the same time. So if I'm not enjoying one class, then I do switch to the other. I started off the season as a Hunter main, and then switched to Warlock, and then finally Titan. I spent much of the season trying out builds on all classes, and hopefully you found those build guides useful. We're now at the end of these subclass reworks, plus we've got a major balance patch coming in Season 19, so all subclasses are now in the same place as Stasis, which gives us loads of build potential. Next up we got the seasonal activities, so we had 3 seasonal activities this time round: Catch Crash, Expeditions and Pirate Hideouts. Expeditions are probably my favourite, and then Pirate Hideouts are a good way to reuse old lost sectors. Catch Crash got stale for me quite quickly, even though Bungie were trying to recreate, a menagerie style activity. This is another place where the seasonal model is really showing its age, going into the seasonal vendor, ranking up the grid, seasonal challenges, repeating seasonal activities. I don't really know what Bungie needs to do, but I would like to see a change to the seasonal model. I very much doubt we're going to see a change before Lightfall, and maybe even in Lightfall itself. Bungie are going to have to keep an eye on things though, because the number of players really fell off this season. Whether that's due to the seasonal activities, I don't think so. I think there's more fundamental issues that Bungie has to deal with in Destiny 2 right now. I do appreciate Bungie gave us 3 activities, that was great, but the model they exist in just feels stale. Well, next up we got the King's Fall raid. So this season, the King's Fall raid came back, plus loads of great weapons, including Touch of Malice. The raid encounters mainly stayed true to the original, and one of the major changes was for the Oryx encounter. I didn't really engage too much with the returning Destiny 1 raid this time. Last time we had Vault of Glass, I must have played that every week without fail, probably until I got Vex, and I think I had about 30 looted clears. So I started off with good intentions. I watched the raid race, with Clan Elysium winning once again their third in a row, and I did the raid a few times, but for whatever reason, it didn't really manage to hold my attention throughout the season. It is one of the better raids in the history of Destiny, although for me, the great content drought of 2015 did come flooding back, with Destiny players only having this raid as an activity for that time. The prospect of Touch of Malice wasn't even enough to keep me coming back. Well, next up we got the loot. So the loot this season was up and down. Our seasonal exotic was a fusion rifle, the Delicate Tomb. That paired up really well with Arc 3.0, had some really interesting lore. I don't think I used it much past the first few weeks though. Seasonal loot was okay, the shotgun being one of the best, and the machine guns had their time in the sun this season, with Thunderlord being a mainstay in my loadout. I haven't said that for about 3 or 4 years. The Taipan 4 FR was the hot newness at the start of the season, plus we had the returning classics with the Mindbender's Ambition and the Malicious Birthright, although the Mindbender's Ambition came back as a sad shell of its former self. Trials added a few new weapons, and the mix included a bow and a slug shotgun, and both of them didn't really set the world on fire. Well, next up, let's have a look at the events. So this season we had a few events, one large and a couple of smaller events. Festival of the Lost returned with one of the grindiest seals that we've had in a long time, including 35 Lost Sector runs, which is almost enough to put me off entirely. Festival of the Lost included some very cool card designs for the masks. I do find these seal chases motivate me more than the events. I did the Flamekeeper seal for Solstice and now Ghostwriter for Festival of the Lost, so Bungie is making me play more of the events. We had a great new sniper with the Macabre, although Ava handed out a god roll right at the start of the event, which was a little bit strange. Personally, I prefer the Haunted Sectors to the Haunted Forest, but by the time we get to next year, I think they should switch up the gimmick of the festival. Ido was the lore focus this time, plus we had Drifter and less Glint, so Glint is criminally underused, so any opportunity to get more Glint into the game would definitely be welcome. We also had a few smaller events, including the community event at the end of the season, where we had to donate Captain's Coins to rebuild the Elixir Quarter. This was data mined fairly early on in the season, so we were expecting it, and in terms of community events that had gone by in the past, they didn't really live up to their high standards. Telesto decided to bug out for a few days. This time it was intentional, which led the community on a huge secrets chase. This happened to be near the end of the season that showed how frustrated and bored the community had got by that point. The community are hungry for secrets, something similar to the Whisper mission or the Corridors of Time, although Bungie did come out and state that encrypting those events or keeping them secret was very expensive, which doused any excitement for future secrets. Next up, let's have a look at PvP. So PvP is not in a good place at all. Bungie did some experimentation with control with SBMM, and then they had to go back on that and implement loose SBMM. This seemed to work well for new or low skill players, and I'll put myself in that bracket, and made the experience much worse for the high skill players. SBMM in control is strange, given control is somewhere to hang out in Crucible, and it's supposed to be the casual playlist, and this made it anything but casual. Iron Banner introduced a new game mode called Eruption, which seemed to go much better in the community compared to New Rift last season, and then Trials introduced a couple of new weapons, and ironically Trials seems to be the most casual playlist in PvP right now. Bungie did announce huge plans for a rework coming in Season 19 across the board with Crucible. They are introducing a ranked game mode, the competitive division. Quick play is going to be Control and Clash, and they're going to replace the quick play node when Iron Banner is on to merge the audiences. So one issue with Crucible is there's so many game modes and the player population gets split into too many fragments. So hopefully all of this is going to really help PvP. We also had a massive balance patch as well, and hopefully PvP is going to be in a better place in Season 19. We are going to have to wait and see what difference it makes, but PvP feels like it's on life support at the moment, and the rumours of Bungie working on a PvP competitive hero shooter definitely don't help. Well, next up I want to spend a few minutes talking about the grind. So this season has been much more of a grind. Bungie raised the requirements for getting a pattern for the seasonal weapons from 3 to 5. Doesn't really sound like much, but the ability to get a deep sight version of a weapon is broken for the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. The seasonal title was extremely grindy, which included killing 50 ruffians, which would have taken multiple hours and have you competing against your fire team for ruffian kills, which relied on RNG. This requirement was reduced to 10 2 weeks before the end of the season. Bungie came out and they said they missed the mark when it came to designing the seasonal title this time round. That was all compounded by Festival of the Lost, also a massive grind. As a Destiny player, I do expect some kind of grind, but this season appeared to be more oppressive than normal. It felt like a filler season in many ways, stretching out the story and making it overly grindy. Well, talking about that, let's have a look at where does this rank with other seasons. So, this one was an interesting season. We all started on such a high, and that dropped off quicker than most seasons. Community sentiment then soured, with many turning to Twitter to publicly proclaim they've been cancelling their Lightfall pre-order, a behaviour, to be honest, I don't really understand. And to me, it seems like a massive cry for attention. Compared to other seasons in the Witch Queen expansion, this felt like the weakest one so far. Given it's the middle season, that's probably okay. You don't want a season like Plunder going into a next major expansion. Plunder has probably been the worst season of the Witch Queen DLC so far. The grind, the filler, all adding up to a mid-expansion burnout across the community. I don't normally struggle to make Destiny content, but this season interest in Destiny 2 has definitely waned, and the motivation is also definitely harder to muster up than it has been in previous seasons. There's probably a lot of lessons this season Bungie can learn, and hopefully they have some time to tweak and change things before we get to Lightfall, as I fear the player population may dwindle even further. Well, that is it for my review of Season of Plunder, and as always, thank you so much for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy the end of Season of Plunder. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you really soon.